Hello and welcome back to module number 9. The theme of this today's module is about multivariate analysis. Not regard to the analysis itself or how do we conduct it, but the design aspect of it. And again, I'm going to use a textbook in order for me to make the points. In your reading recommendation, you will be asked to read chapter 4, which you already did, with Nathan Hall textbook, Visualize This. This will be our next chapter, our next module, module number 10, when he talks about time, and we are going to show you example of time and how to do that. But I would like to start based on the face-to-face, and that's why I thought it was a very successful session we had face-to-face, that some of you ask about general graph design rules in order for you to be a better visual analytic person and be able to apply that. So I'm going to highlight 5 simple principles that I hope that those principles will allow you to have a better design and not design disasters in order for you to do that. And I'm going to do that through the main principle of design. Our text will show me the numbers in chapter number 9. So the principles that I'm going to introduce to you today, and again, I think I talked about that throughout the semester, but this is the principles from Anthony Hotkin. He is an Australian web designer that's very active with regard to promoting good design. So it is a subject that is being debated and being addressed, and I want to remind you that good design is subjective, and so you cannot apply all what you think it's a good design to all subject, because everyone has his own opinion. So let's start with rule number 1 according to Anthony. So the rule number 1 is alignment. It is the idea of creating a sharp, more ordered design, and aligning elements allow to create connection with each other. So the idea here is that they are not closely close to each other, but provide some alignment to each other and give us some understanding what does it entail. Example, principle number 3, alignment. This is something that I took from my own class that I attended in 2001. And so the idea was that nothing should be placed on the page without any idea where it is. So you need to think about that, and you need to address that when you are designing your own visual analytics. Why? Because, example, the title or the index or any other elements that you are putting into your design should not be out of the blue. You cannot make up things as you go along. I want you to have some focus and able to understand what does it entail. If we are talking about ggplot2, and one of the things that we often encounter with regard to ggplot2, and as I talk is based on the grammar or graphic, the issue is that ggplot2 allows you to have some structure or some alignment in your capture of the data and how you present it in using different aesthetics and gemos in order for you to apply different color scale or to use different backgrounds, and even the panel or the axis or the script allowed you to do some more ability to do that. The ggplot2 also allowed you to have schema with regard to this to the design, and I'll talk about that later on today about how to do that. When we are talking about specific of ggplot2 with regard to grid.arrange, makes no attempt to give aligning to the plot panel. So instead, it merely places the object into some grid in order for us to apply that. You then need to take it on yourself to apply what I'm going to talk about, design element, in order for you to follow the instructions, in order for you to apply them and to see where it takes you with regard to the idea of repetition or alignment or any other 5 basic rules that we are going to cover that. So it's up to you, not me or not anyone else, to apply that and think how you can apply those 5 rules in order for your visualization to become more communicative and more transparent. Rule number 2 is talk about repetition. And repetition in design talks about strengthening the design by putting or taking together individual elements and make them more concise. In this example, into the right-left side, again, the use of white and red, the use of circle, small circle, a big circle, and black, give you the sense that there is a repetition in the design throughout the entire display. So this is really important, and I want you to think about that when you go into a commercial website. Usually the commercial website has a repetition that shows the same design throughout the website. Example, the design of our school website has the same repetition, the same design schema throughout the website. So how can you apply those repetition to your own design? Something that you need to start thinking about in the upcoming assignment, that you need to start thinking about how can you make your step or your own unique design into it in order for you to make a point with regard to repetition and ability to have something in stand out. Another thing that will probably some of you will say, wait, rule number 1 and rule number 3 contradict each other. Yes, they might contradict, but it's things that I want you to think about when you are doing your design. Why? Because rule number 3 is talking about contrast. In compared to alignment, this is a contrast. You want to show, example, dollar versus a grain or anything else in order to make the point more clear. So you can use lined, thin versus thick, or you can make shape big versus small, and just to name a few and how to make them a more contrast, a more strong statement about your design. So contrast play a critical part of the page or the visual graph, and usually it allows the reader to know where to look for when he is looking for important element, graphic object element in your design. And the classic example, again, this is, I know this is using Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator to make this point. Look at the color, the 2 colors, black and white, and how to display them. In this case, the white and the black, and how the designer used that in order for it to make a point. Proximity is another element, and it's rule number 4, which is, again, create some organization or some grouping into the design in order for you to make more sense. If you are going to display at least 2 or 3 visual analytics graph in your report, make it some organization that so it will be able you to tell the story. Don't make one with yellow and one with gold and one with black. It doesn't make any sense. So make the proximity, make the idea that everything is come together with regard to point size, font, color, etc. Okay, so how would we apply that into ggplot2? One way to look at that is proximity. And again, this is a simple example of bar graph. And again, the issue is that ggplot2, with regard to the background, to the ability to display specific points and where they're standing and how to apply that, provide us more proximity that if I will ask someone who is not familiar with my research or my findings, will have better understand what does it entail. So this is the color placed together, there is the color, there is the black, and make it a not strong emphasize, but make it a narrative out of it. When we are talking about Cleveland and dot plot, Cleveland is the one who created the idea of visual grammar, and the idea here is again using the R and using ggplot2, I'll be able to display that. And again, I want you to see which one works best for you. Is it the dot plot or the bar graph? Makes it the storyteller. Every one of us has different understanding. What does it entail and how to apply that? Another way for you to do that is to create box plot. And again, the idea of box plot in ggplot2 is that you have to have some structure. The command, the condition that adds to the color of the plot, and then summarize the mean to the plot in order for us to get that. So this is how to do that, and this is how to apply that, and I will talk about it. I will give you more example in Canvas with that. The rule number 5, back to our rules, is the balance. And the balance provides the ability of the structure of the design. Again, I know for some of you it's some vague idea, but the balance aims to achieve two objectives. One is the idea of that it will be synchronized and it will have some structure that will allow us to do that. So its ability to achieve when a weight of the elements are on both value has design even, like a central line, and the idea of on the other hand, to create a contrast in order for you to apply that. So the balance, again, this is a classical example in Adobe Illustrator. To the left, to the right, look how they apply the colors, how they apply the text in order for them to make a point about the balance. Okay, so now I'm going back to our textbook and talk about how to maintain visual correspond to quantity and how to avoid 3D in order for us to make a point. So one of the things that our textbook always repeat again and again would agree that rule number 5 and rule number 4 and rule number 5 has same direction as maintaining visual correspondings. So according to our textbook, this is a bad example of 3D and trying to illustrate what it is. I know that the size of the image is scratched out throughout the PowerPoint, but again, I wanted to make a point that this is not a very clear, concise visual representation and can cause people to not understand what does it entail. So back to multivariate analysis and how to capture that in visual representation. So first of all, what is multivariate? Multivariate is considered to be not 1, not 2, not 5, not 10, but much more variables that have each of one has the same values. Example, in empty cars in R is a list of 24 cars, old cars, that provide us some description of the mileage, the circle, the heat, the etc., etc., etc. And all those cars has the idea. So this is how we apply that. This set holds, example, as I said, some variables that we can display it and apply that. Example, we are going to look at the HP and how to apply that. And so let's add it to the ggplot2. So we are going to create a box plot, and we are going to use the GeoM case in order for us to make it. And we are going to use numerical value like 0 and 1 in order for us to display that. So as with any ggplot2 call, we start with the ggplot2 as our first line. Then the mapping of the aesthetic. In this case, we are talking about the X and the Y. And then we are going to apply how we are going to do that. A simple linear regression model has continuous outcome because regression, in compared to any other form of analysis, has one predictor, whereas in multivariance, we have multiple predictors. So the idea here is how do we apply that? So in this case, I'm going to use a very simple example with ggplot2 and with my car, and I want you to pay attention to what I have done here. So I have two variables that I'm looking at, MT and MPG, and I'm using the geo /point to make smooth, and it allowed us to show the distribution or the linear regression, in this case, how to apply that. So now we get a linear regression out of the ggplot2, and the gray area is the uncertainty in the fit. So it's 95% confidence the interval where the true trend line could be. It's worth noting, and again, as I wrote here, is that below it can be what it is we are dealing with and the scope of this class. So in a simple linear regression, we are talking about how to apply and how we are talking about one element where we are trying to do. However, we started to talk about multivariant linear regression. So the idea here is that we are doing the same contest or category with regard to modeling, and we are trying to do what we are trying to achieve. So the code line for the ggplot, if we are going to do multivariance analysis, in this case, we are going to do the same thing, but we are going to change the landscape of the code in order for us to do that. So in this case, we are going to use another frame. We are using, again, 1, 2, 3 colors, and we have a scale of the colors in order for us to display the following example. So in this case, in compared to this is a one element, and in this case it is more than 3 variables that we are playing into the outcome in order for us to display it, and it's not in 3D and has a very clear and concise layout. What does it entail? So the size of the circle is also marked. The circle is also marked. The color of the circle is also marked. So everything is laid out for the user to read it as a simple text or a simple visual representation in order for them to make it more clear and more concise. So what is the effect? The effect is that we are trying to determine if is it true that colors with higher value or higher point have a lower fuel efficiency, but also have a higher weight. So those two predictors are trying to establish with our analysis, and by using it, we can use example heat map, or we can do coordinate plots or Farley graphs. All of that go back to what is it insists. So the first example that our textbook talks about is the idea that we can do a collection of visual object refers polygraphs. And so the idea here is that has a lot of history. The Egyptians already used that in order for them to apply this idea. And so they created a polygraph, and in order for them to display that, it was a combination between one or two elements together in order for them to display what is it entail. The visual attributes, colors, the shape of the head, the thickness, the position of the arm, the position of the legs, and the variables, the body temperature, the blood type, the body mass index, the heart rate, and the blood sugar level. All those attributes were part of the visual attributes. In addition, using faces to represent a k-dimensional space. And this is where in the beginning of visualization, this is what they used to in order for them to present multivariance analysis. So back to R, and back to what we have started the last time with the package called CoreGram. And so in this case, the idea of the package is to visualize to matrix of correlation. And so this is an example. So the package provide techniques and provide also the ability to represent variables in terms of the correlation, basically the idea of representation with a matrix. The cells of the matrix is shaded or colored to show the correlation values. So in the library, how do we do that? How do we run it? We have to have two libraries embedded already in the R. And in order for you to do that, you also have to call a package called FigyoMind R. In this example, I will use it in this declaration. And I will show you the output of it in Canvas. The next one is heat map. And again, heat map can be beautiful display, and it is again can tell you about a larger set of data and what does it entail. And this is from the work of the design engineer Kendi in 1991 to describe the 2D display of the financial market information. So he took it in 1991, tried to capture the market in order for him to display this heat map, which is considered to be a very good indication of what's going on. So in R, I'm going to use the following. I took the data from followingdata.com, and they have this CVS file, and you're going to name it, and you're going to apply it, and you're going to follow these lines in order for you to do that, in order for you to create something like that, which is, again, this is quite cool in how to apply that. Another package that we often use, and again, this is something that our textbook probably will not like, is the idea of 3D. And lattice graphics is also developed by Shankar in 1993, and this package is based on the idea that we can convert everything in 3D. And so the idea here is that we are trying high-level lattice function do not print or plot everything. They create a trail, and which can be later be plotted and after that be applied. So you're going to add on this package, and I will be able to provide you, again, I will provide you with the outline and what is it entail. So again, the steps in a lattice package, this is what it entail and how to do that, and this is the result of it. Again, some of you would say, well, it's clear, but it's not really clear, which I totally accept, I totally understand, but this is when you have a large set of data, this is the best you can do, and this is how to apply that. One note that can also follow is this same command, and you can also use the print command in order for you to apply that. So while letters, it is the authors give three-dimensional. Marshall give three-dimensional. One is they usually look better. They can extend its power, powerful way, and the result output can be edited and saved later in order for you to apply that. So again, this is the formula that I lay out for you step by step, how to apply that, how to apply the formula that is part of the package in R in order for you to generate that, and how to apply that in order for you to get something like that. And again, to some people it's very clear, to some people it's not. I accept both ways. So again, this is the output that it can produce, and again, this is a 3D dimension of a mountain with regard to volcanoes, columns, and row, and something that it is. But our textbook also talks about best practices. And it says one of the things that he recommends, ranking the item by similarities. And I want you to think about that, because this is really important, because our popular and universal approach of structuring otherwise unorganized collection can be sometimes hard to do. So basically, according to our textbook, ranking can have an ability to shape the size of the data and to make it more clear. And he gives, again, I'm taking it from our textbook, he gives us a way for us to structure it and be able to apply that in this sense. One of the things that we do in order for us to rank or to apply ranking is the idea of clustering analysis. The idea of clustering analysis is to organize data into high, low cluster in order for us to do that. So what does it really mean, or how do we apply that? We are generating example heat map, and by using clustering in order for us to understand what does it consist of as a sub classification. So in this heat map, we are not having one dimension, we have multiple dimensions that the data is organized in order for us to be able to understand what does it entail and to look at the overall platform as you see that the connection between the lines in that graph. So if you want to learn about clustering, I highly recommend, especially to those people who are interested in advanced statistics, clustering is part of your destiny subject. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn something new. I will post more information about that in Canvas. Until next time, have fun.